manliness. It's simple, really. You either want to grow in virtue and holiness, or you want to be a sissy, whiny baby. If you choose to move forward, grab your whiskey glass, because the Catholic Man Show is starting right now.
Welcome to the Catholic Man Show. We're on the Lord's team, the winning side. So raise your glass. Adam Minahan here, sitting with the David Niles. Juan Posada on the buttons. We have Jim Jam sitting next to us at the door, waiting for anybody to barge in and take him down. We're going to be talking about fear tonight. I'm a little scared. I'm a little nervous.
I'm afraid.
It is your topic, so...
Did you ever see the movie The Sphere?
No. But I'm going to go off of JP2, and he just says, be not afraid. As he's, I guess, actually, you know what?
Yeah.
You know, the Bible says that.
Well, I think that's, like, Jesus says, be not afraid more than anything else. I think that's his most common phrase.
Like in the New Testament or something. If we were biblical scholars, we would know that ahead of time. But we're not, so here we are. But yeah, we're going to talk about...
Well, yeah, he certainly says it more in the New Testament than in the Old Testament. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, good job. Okay, let's get into... Why do you keep messing with the headphones, dude?
I'm just trying to get the right volume.
I'm good.
I'm with mine.
You keep messing with mine.
Well, it's like, is this one me? No, that's not me.
That's me,
oh,
yeah.
There's 4 knobs down there.
Yeah.
We only have 2 headphones.
Yeah. Okay. Well, tonight, we're going to be... opening up a little bit of Basil Hayden Dark Rye.
Yeah, this is a Basil Hayden I had not encountered before.
Fun fact, Basil Hayden is one that we tried back before episode 40, like within and now, so what happens with iTunes is after you reach like maybe 250 episodes, it starts taking away episodes that you can download like on iTunes. So
why does iTunes have to mess with it all the time? You know what I mean? Just leave it alone.
Yeah. So you can't actually get like the first 30 episodes on iTunes. You'd have to go to our website to get to get it. Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. I've wondered about that. You know, and I mentioned this in the last episode. How long will if we just stopped doing this and just walked away from the show, how long would our episodes exist on the internet? And like, who's supporting them? You know what I'm saying? Like, whose server are they on, and how long are they
paying for? Until
yeah, but I'm saying if we like walked away,
we
stopped, we just shut it down. You know, bills. Obviously, there's no website bills are going to be paid anymore. Would they just go away? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, they're on YouTube. YouTube would, in theory, would keep
them.
I mean, they don't delete stuff. Well, actually, these days they do.
They actually do delete things.
Yeah.
But. Okay, so I'm excited. So what is the dark rye?
Okay, so so this is a rye.
Can you pour it in
Well, I can, but I was gonna look at the bottle too because I didn't want. So Basil Hayden is known for their bourbon. They make a really good bourbon. It was one of the first ones we tried for that reason because like, hey, if you're drinking bourbon, you should try Basil Hayden. And so this, however, is a rye. So it's not a bourbon. It's made with rye. It's not made with corn, right? Corn? You'd think I would know that. Anyway, so this is blended with straight rye whiskey, Canadian rye whiskey, and a touch of port. So they actually blend it with some port in order to create...
That's why it has that almost like plum color.
Right, a rich amber pour with ruby undertones. But it's still 80 proof. Subtle fruits of sweetness to complement the traditional rye spice. It's approachable and wholly inspired. It's a wholly inspired experience to enjoy any way you like.
Well, I'm excited to try it because
you can have it whatever you like.
If you've listened to the show before, I'm not a big rye drinker.
No,
because it's actually just too much for me.
So I've had a really expensive rye before that was not. When I think of rye, I think it's like rough. Like,
right. It's aggressive. It's very aggressive.
This is like what the cowboys are drinking in the old Western films.
Right.
You know, where they're like these burly men go like,
Right.
it's tough to get it down.
It's not bonded.
Right, exactly. But a really nice rye is still very smooth.
With
but
the
this
port,
bottle,
hopefully it'll smooth it out a little bit.
and Basil Hayden is a good distiller, and I liked it because this is $43. So I've never tried it before, but I like, for Basil Hayden to,
I forgot we to cheers. I was gonna spit it back out.
I thought you were gonna be like, oh, it's bad. Don't.
No, I was just gonna spit it back out because we forgot to cheers. But then I was like, that's not.
I'm glad
I'm
you
not
didn't
doing
do
that.
Yeah, I wouldn't have wanted to watch that.
Cheers.
We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
Cheers.
And cheers to Jesus.
Cheers to Jesus. A fruity aroma on the nose.
Definitely.
Almost sherry smell.
Wow. I wonder.
A little chocolate.
I wonder how much port they put in there, because you can definitely taste it. It's not overpowering, but it's actually stronger than the port flavor is stronger than I expected that it would be.
And it definitely tempers the aggressiveness of the rye.
It's hard to. If you had just poured this for me, I'm
don't know
not
if I
really
would've-
sure what it. I wouldn't know what it was.
I've been a little confused.
Yeah.
But I stay in that state of confusion. I typically
Yeah.
I start there, and then I hopefully get cleared up from there. But I like it. I actually
I do
I
too.
didn't think I was gonna like it, but I actually am enjoying it.
Yeah, I'm gonna reserve my final opinion for maybe towards the end of the show, because it's very difficult for me to make judgments with one sip. So there's been times where I've had something, and just because it's so unique and different, I say, "Ooh, that's good. I like it." And then as I keep drinking it, I say, "Yeah, never mind. The novelty is wearing off, and I'm liking it less and less." I'm not saying that's gonna happen here,
Right.
but. And then actually what happens mostly is I'll try something and say, I'm not sure about that. But then as I finish, by the time I'm done with the glass, I say, I changed my mind.
I like this.
I do like that.
Hey Dave, I have not told you this yet, but this
Okay.
is something that you would enjoy hearing. We are going to have the encyclical Casti Canubi for the recorded for all of our patrons.
Probably my favorite encyclical title.
Which is it is fun to say, Casti Canubi.
Casti Canubi.
But
Canubi.
it's on Christian marriage.
I can just picture Will Ferrell in the movie Elf saying, Canubi, that's a fun word.
Yeah. But it's 1,800 words, a little over 1,800 words. So it's long. It's not it's on Christian marriage.
It's long by old standards anyway.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But it's one that everybody should read who's going in the vocation of marriage.
Yeah.
But it's because it is long, it's kind of burdensome.
Who wrote it?
Paul the Sixth. Is it Paul
the Sixth? Yeah. I didn't think it was John Paul II.
No.
John Paul II kind of started the long encyclical trend. Encyclicals used to be very pithy, short.
No, Pius the Ninth.
Pius
the 11th.
Pius the 11th. Okay.
Pius the 11th.
But then, JP2, he kind of started some longer encyclicals. His encyclicals are very, very good. But these days it's like they're pages and pages and pages.
But so it's going to be long. I mean, it'll be a longer recording than what we typically try to shoot for the 10 to 12 minute range. So this one will be quite a bit longer. But it'll be, I think, very beneficial.
Very cool.
So if you go to patreon.com/thecatholicman show, you can support as little as $4 a month. You're going to get these audio recordings. They're professionally done. They're really well done, high quality,
so
awesome
how many pages
voice.
is 1,800 words?
I don't know because
I don't know either. It's like, is that a 30-minute audio?
It'll be more than that.
Okay, so maybe 2 days. If you want to commit 2 days, your commute there and back to maybe a 2-day commute.
Because our typical on average is about 3,000 to 4,000 words, and that's about 10 to 12 minutes.
Oh, 18,000, not 1,800.
Right, correct.
18,000.
Did I say 100?
You said 100.
I
and was
apologize.
like, that didn't seem like that long.
I'm sorry,
but
18,000.
18,000 is a lot more than
a lot more.
1,800.
Yes, a lot more.
Yeah.
So anyway,
You can see why
I'm really excited. Yeah, I can see the
a
confusion.
person was confused. Right.
I start in that state. Remember, I told you this.
True.
But I'm really excited about it because one, I want to listen to it. So we try to pick encyclicals or holy writings that really we like to, we'd be interested in, and hopes that everybody else would be too. But the only reason why we can do that is because of guys who support us on the show. So
Thank you.
Everything that we do, we roll it back into the show.
Why don't you raise a glass to our Patreon? supporters, our patrons.
I raise my glass to you, gentlemen. I thank for past and present and future patrons of the Catholic Man Show. May you continue growing in holiness, and may you strive to live a virtuous life in this crazy, corrupt world through the intercession of Saint Joseph. Cheers.
Here. Cheers. As the whiskey flows from this bottle, so may God's grace flow upon you.
Well, did you ask me to do that just that way you could say that part?
No.
It seemed like that was you were.
I
itching.
thought of it as you were already
Going.
doing your subpar toast. That compared to mine was better.
Okay.
Not
Not that we're keeping score, but I was winning.
Yep. I'm totally winning.
Okay.
If for nothing else, more opportunities that you have been so generous to give me throughout the course of our show. As of late, not so much.
I haven't sprung that on
it
you
hasn't
in a
been a
while.
while. There are so many. There's like phases or seasons of the Catholic Man Show.
I know, isn't it funny?
You know,
where we go through
feats of strength.
Yeah.
Was probably one.
Jokes.
Jokes of the day. Oh yeah, that one was short lived.
That was very.
That's
no.
probably
That's
fine.
a good thing.
That's probably
a good thing.
Yeah, that's okay.
That's all right. Surprisingly, no one's calling for it back.
You know where
I can't believe it.
You know where the coronavirus likes to go on vacation? Germany.
Nice.
Yeah.
Dad joke.
Super funny.
Yeah. Yeah, but it is funny how we have evolved
Seasons.
seasons. Yeah. A man for all seasons, even.
Indeed. Indubitably, my friend.
So we're going to talk about guns?
Let's be British when we come back. You
no.
do it and I won't. You do it and I
Yeah.
won't. That'll be better.
Hard pass. We're going to
Okay.
talk about... is that...
We're going to talk about gun locks.
Ooh, okay.
Facebook is always changing stuff. Like now I can't, like if somebody does something, it'll only let me like it. I can't even respond directly to a person on here.
Well, they'll be paying attention to it anyway while we're recording. Do that later.
Look, I'm like John Paul II. I can do two things at one time.
I do think that's incredible.
What he could do?
Yes.
Yo, it's like a miracle or something.
That is an
He was a
incredible
miraculous
grace.
dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not on the official list, but it definitely is a gift of the Holy Spirit.
Okay. Let's just keep rolling one. If you're okay with it.
How do you say Roland?
I'm paying attention to you, Margot.
¿Cómo se dice Roland en español, El Juan?
El Rolo. Not the candy.
El Roland, Roland, Roland. I think if you just say El before it, it's basically Spanish.
With an O at the end.
Right.
Or a law with an A at the end.
Right. As long as it doesn't sound too Italian.
Gotta worry about that.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles. And this is the Catholic Man Show. Other people here are Adam Minahan, Jim Finster, Jim Spencer. Jim Finster's like his totally other dude.
It's his birthday
And
today.
it's his birthday today.
Yeah.
That is the Holy Spirit.
He was...
If you've ever wondered what the Holy Spirit looks like, it was that moment.
just capture
Happy
it.
birthday, Jim Finster.
Yep.
He's a listener. He'll get this. But we also have Jim Spencer here. That's his real name. His social security number is... I'm just kidding. And Juan Posada. Okay, so...
Just gloss over one.
everybody knows Juan.
Yeah.
Okay, so man gear today is this gun lock that I have with me.
Can you raise it up?
I can raise it up, but I want to make sure to honor the podcast audience who cannot see on the camera. If you would like to see on the camera, go to our YouTube channel and you can see. But this is my shot lock. Okay. We're over here. Okay, so it's this one. They make these shot locks. This is a gun case to hold a rifle or a long gun of some kind. This one is for a shotgun. That I think this is the best of all the when I've done research before I bought this. This was absolutely the best solution. okay? Because this is for my home defense shotgun. Okay, there's a problem. There are competing forces when it comes to securing your shotgun so that, you know, it's safe from children or friends. You know, like, you want to make sure you have to have your guns safely secured, right? Secured.
Accurate.
Right.
Fact check. True.
Yes, that's just part of responsible gun ownership. But also, you have to have them ready. They have to be both secure and ready. You know, if I have a big safe and I have to, like, someone in my house and it's like, hang on, I've got to do the 3-digit,
click,
and it usually takes me at least 2 tries.
Can you hold on?
Just a second. I'm trying to get the door open,
right,
sir.
Right.
And then when we get the door open, I'll have something to say to you. You know, that's not obviously the way it works. Okay, so this is really truly incredible because, Adam, would you mind?
I'll
Okay.
Vanna White this.
Okay, and I happen to have here my shotgun.
It's not loaded, is it?
It is not loaded.
Hold on. Make sure.
It's definitely not loaded.
Now it is not loaded.
It's definitely not loaded. Okay? So what you do is this you know, this shotgun will hold 5 shells in the magazine.
There's no magazine.
This is the magazine right here of the shotgun. Okay? The tube thing that you put them in.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you'd rack the slide back, and so the ejection port is open.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see right here this little peg that the shotgun will hang like that.
On that peg.
Okay, and then you'd close the door. So right now, if there were shells in this gun, there would be a shell kind of sitting right there, ready to be put into the chamber. Okay?
Okay.
And so there, at this point, the gun is not, it's not deadly. There is no physical way for this gun to discharge.
Right.
Okay? And so you just have it like this, ready, shut, in your wall, you know, wherever you want to put it. But as soon as you open this, you take out your gun and go like this, and now all of a sudden the gun is loaded and ready to fire. Okay? So it goes from just the way this is designed, it is a completely harmless firearm. There's no way that it can go off. I mean, aside from, like, you know, taking a grill gun and blazing up the shotgun, you know, like somehow discharging the shells.
Oh no, I locked it. Okay, I can unlock it.
That's okay. Well, I can unlock it. But so I just thought this was really great, and I think it's like $120, so it's not super expensive.
Yeah. Okay, so what it has also on there to open it up once it's closed is a keypad with a knob for lock and unlock.
Right, and so they make
but it's a push button keypad, which I think is nice.
Okay, they make both.
I would rather have that.
Me too. They have a digital version. I think they even have a fingerprint version.
I would not want that.
And I agree. The fingerprint in theory is faster, but that assumes that it reads right away. Yeah. There's so many problems with fingerprint scanners on.
And
I think
often your adrenaline is going. Are you holding your finger still, or is your finger sweaty?
Exactly.
Like, you know,
which finger was it? I mean, yeah. So this has no batteries. It's all mechanical, which I think is good. The one thing about this is that this is not going to stop an intruder, if someone comes in your house when you're not there, from stealing the firearm. Okay? So you could mount this into the studs in your wall. They're still, if they want to take that gun,
they're going to rip it off.
They're going to be able to rip it off the wall.
But they're not going to be able to get the gun inside unless they
could take it home. They could take it home and cut this open. That is definitely a possibility.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it would be. Or, you know, I think if you took a big sledgehammer in about 10 minutes, you could break this thing open.
Okay.
But it's not designed as a safe to secure, like, valuable guns. This is designed, like this shotgun I have, it's not very expensive. I'm not worried about someone stealing it. I'm worried about it being safe and being ready at the same time. So the website's shotlock.com. Go check it out. They're not sponsoring us. I just really like it. I've had this for like 4 years.
If you work for that company, we'd like a sponsorship.
Right. Yeah, that would be cool too. We would totally be into that if you know anybody, if you have connections. I also have another gun case. It's a Speed Vault. It is a digital keypad.
Okay.
And I really like it because you just beep 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 beep, boom, and that's for my pistol, and it just drops it, and it's right there. I've got them staged throughout the house in strategic locations. Yeah. Nice. And sometimes I'll test run Pamela.
You do?
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea.
And I'll be like, go, 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 go. You know,
and like try to
make her go as fast as
she,
like create a false sense of anxiety. It's kind of mean, but it also is like
it's good training.
Because here's what I think:
like
is like
fireworks off in the house.
Right. If somebody's in the house,
Roman candles are going through like the 4th of July,
and let's say like I'm having to like try to physically subdue them. Maybe I'm bigger than them. Maybe they're bigger than me. I need to know.
Honest, I mean, you would be able to take them. Hypothetically, I mean, you'd be able to take them.
Hypothetically, it doesn't matter for sure.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I need to know that she can go retrieve the gun quickly and bring it to me. I'm not actually expecting her to ever discharge the weapon.
Has she fired it before?
Yeah. She knows.
She needs to know how.
She knows how. On both of our guns.
Good.
Or both of them that we have. I have more than 2, but only 2 strategically placed. Strategery.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but my expectation is probably bring it to me. That's my job, you know. But I don't think I could say, "Hey, Pamela, babe, hold him down."
All right.
While I go get the gun, right? So anyway, that was just something I used to just have them in my closet when I was a bachelor, and then when Elizabeth was born, and when she really turned like 1 and could start walking around. That's when Pamela kind of gave me the ultimatum that's like, look, you either do something about this or we're not having these. And it's like, you are right.
It's very, very prudent.
You are right. And so I did a bunch of research at the time, and I found both of these. Shotlock, they make, if you want to get one, like if you have an AR-15 or something, they make, you know, different ones for different guns. And
man, I wish I had my brother-in-law Holden on the show right now because he knows.
He's a gun guy.
He's a gun guy, and he knows a lot about
this.
It would have been good to have him on this for this segment.
Can I ask you like a serious question about our country?
Okay.
Do I
have to give a serious answer?
Only if you feel like that's appropriate.
Okay.
Do you feel like our country might be headed towards like some sort of violent conflict, an internal violent conflict?
When you say that, do you mean like kind of like a civil war type of aspect? Like,
it just seems like protests are getting more and more violent, and I just have this fear that
irrational
people on both sides are getting stressed more and more and more, and that it seems like if current trajectories hold, in the next decade, we are headed towards a violent altercation between political sides.
I think it's a possibility without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think that it's important for us to be praying for peace.
Yes.
And pray for the leaders of our country.
Yes,
because,
absolutely.
You know, we gotta have leaders in the country that uphold moral standards and that will strive for peace within because we got to be together in order to be strong. And so. I do think that there is a possibility that you can't rule out that if we continue on this trajectory. But I have this sense that at some point, the silent majority or the people who are watching this thinking how ridiculous a lot of this is will finally say enough is enough. Cut it out. Let's get together. Like, I know that we have differences. And
that's the moment that I worry about. When they say enough is enough.
Right. Because,
and the other side says no. I mean, the Marxist extreme, the radical left, they are violent. I mean, they're the ones destroying cop cars, looting, burning things. They have already demonstrated a proclivity to violence. They're ready for violence.
Yeah. The sad
you know what
part,
I mean?
The sad part
and
is,
I think that if the conservative party, not party, but population, eventually they're going to say enough is enough, and that's when I worry about what happens.
The sad part is that America can only be like destroyed from within right now. You know, and
I agree.
It's sad to see that happen.
I think all civilizations are, well, no, all great civilizations are destroyed from within.
So, we do a disservice to the people who've guided this country by not standing up for what's right and
We
just.
do need to pray for peace. That's the best. That's the best point.
Yep. So when we get back, we're going to talk about fear. We'll be right back.
Question. Ryan Robinson asked exactly what kind do you have for your pistol? I need one for my Beretta.
I don't have a shot lock for my pistol, Ryan. I have a speed lock, or a speed vault. I think it used to be called Speed Vault, and I think they had like a name change, or they were bought out by somebody, but they make the same product still. So if you Google Speed Vault, you'll be able to find it. It's just type in the code, and the drawer just kind of goes punk, and it drops out, and you can pull the gun out. And I think they even make some that are designed to like put in your car.
Juan, let's keep going before I lose my train of thought.
Sign of old age.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I'm not joking.
Are you voting for Kanye in the upcoming election?
He's running. Is he running?
He's not.
He's not.
He
that's
said
a joke,
that.
right?
He said that, but I predict he will be on 0 ballots in the states.
Yeah.
You can't
He's
just
already too late to
just
do
be
it.
like, "Oh, I'm running for president." And like there are so many prerequisites to be on the ballot.
Right.
He will meet none of them.
Right. All right, let's keep going.
Yeah.
Because he's already in. Yeah. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. Sitting here drinking a little bit of Basil Hayden Dark Rye. There's a reason why we have, we talked about guns, have the red light in the background. We're talking about fear today, but I just want to piggyback off of what the last segment, because you were asking me about, if they think that there's going to be, internal
Violence,
conflicts.
Yeah.
And I think that as men, we said, like, the important thing is to pray for peace. But I think even more important than obviously we need to do that. But even another thing that's extremely important is to turn off the news and focus on raising your kids.
Totally.
You want to change the world?
Yeah.
Focus on your domestic church. Focus on what the Lord has given you in charge of. The Lord is not going to judge you at the last day for what a leader of the country has done. He may judge you if
Correct.
you say something that's sinful.
Mm-hmm.
In public about it. If you
Now he might judge you for intentionally voting for a candidate who is pro-abortion.
Yes.
So I mean there are some things you got to do, but once again that's your decision.
But I think
you only can control your own decisions.
But I think that if a lot of people just freaking turned off the news, turned off social media, and focus on loving your wife, focus on raising your children to be holy children,
right? And have a whole bunch of kids. We'll out reproduce them.
I think that's what's going to change the world.
Yeah.
You don't want violence. That's what's going to within our country. That's how you're going to do it.
Yeah.
Raise your kids. Raise a litany of saints. Raise your kids to be saints.
So 9. You have to have at least 9 if you want to go to heaven. Is that what you're saying?
That's a novena. Litany.
You're right. You're right.
Can be...
I'm just checking. I was just testing you. You passed.
All right.
You passed this one.
Good. Okay. So
be ready for the next one.
So we're talking about fear tonight.
Yes.
I think this is a great topic to talk about under the current conditions. What does St. Thomas have to say about fear?
St. Thomas has a lot to say about fear. He has, he's always, he's got good, when he talks about something, he tends to speak completely on a subject. If he says on fear, which he does here, he tends to like, wow, you really covered your bases pretty well there. You covered stuff that I didn't even know was there to be covered.
He was steel manning an argument that I didn't even think about, conceive that was even an argument for fear.
Right. And he does it in his philosophical way with terms that people like me don't understand. All right. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little confused by your tactics. Keep acting tough until I figure it out. Okay, so however, on fear, he really has a lot to say, even for him. He talks about it in many different sections.
Of the Summa,
of course. He says like what it is. Is it a part of? Is it an appetite? What is the subject of fear? What is the object of fear? And so,
is it a sin?
Is fear a sin? Right. That's ultimately where I want to get to today.
Good, because that's what I'd like to get to.
Right. And so he starts off his very first question that he says whether the object of fear is good or evil.
Okay.
And he says that the object of fear is evil. Augustine says that there is no cause for fear save the loss of the good that we love. And so the loss of a good, the deprivation of a good, would be the definition of an evil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so he says that there are two ways that man might fear this loss of the good.
Okay.
And that is either by deficiency on his own part or by strength on the opposition, part of the opposition.
I really relate to the former rather than the latter.
Right. Really both. Because if you have a deficiency, you also view the opposition as
Stronger than what it really
as
is.
powerful. Right. Yeah, exactly. And so that's just important, like, because I think we kind of think fear is like, oh, I'm afraid of the dark.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he is not necessarily talking about that fear.
Supposedly St. Thomas Aquinas was fearful of thunder.
Was he?
Yeah, and I think that's such a beautiful thing in reality because it's very childlike.
Okay, so here's, I think the distinction he would make is, was he afraid of the thunder, or was he startled? Did thunder like startle, like scare him when it happened? You know, because the one is a rational, takes place, you know, in the intellect,
mm-hmm.
and you know, is the will being driven by the intellect. It's a rational process,
mm-hmm.
and the other is it just simply like I'm startled.
Scared.
I'm startled easily. Like some people are just easily startled.
Please do not startle my wife.
I was gonna use her as an example, but I was like, you know, she's not my wife.
I better not do that.
Yeah.
So one of the things.
But yes, Lady Haley,
yes,
is very easily startled.
And if you do,
even if she knows you're there, you can still startle her.
When we first married, I kind of like to. Like,
it's fun to scare people.
Yes, scare, like jump out from a corner, you know.
Right.
And I did that, and she started crying, and I realized really fast I was having fun. We were having fun. This is not fun anymore. I realized I don't want to do this anymore, and it was a learning curve on the marriage scale.
Yeah.
But so anyway, yeah.
So he covers a lot of interesting questions.
Here's something that I have. Oh,
like
maybe,
whether fear itself can be feared.
Whether you could be basically fearful of being fearful.
Yes, and he says yes, that you can be afraid of
like scrupulosity of fearfulness.
Like he says,
almost.
There you could have fear of being tempted, and you could be afraid of the situation of being tempted. And so like that's like being afraid of the fear, because if you're going through temptations, a fear always originates from the outside, is what he says. So fear never comes from something from within. So he says, is sin the object of fear?
What do you mean by fear doesn't come from within? Because like I feel like that I build up these scenarios where I become fearful, and it's because of my projections.
Yes. So what he says is that we can only fear things external to us. That if something is internal to us, we don't fear it because it's already part of us. He says it in much more eloquent.
Yeah, I just don't understand that, I guess.
Yeah. So when he says whether the evil of sin is the object of fear, he says, as the object of hope is the future good, difficult but possible to obtain, so the object of fear is a future evil, arduous and not easily avoided. Let me see where he says. He talks about whether sudden things are especially feared, and he says yes, that they are, just kind of because
you're human.
He says like, oh, you have less time to
right.
kind of make up your mind about them, and so it exaggerates the fear.
Let me tell you where I'm typically most fearful?
Okay.
I'm a people pleaser. I want people to like me. I want people to I want you to be happy. I want to make you happy. I'm a people pleaser.
Okay.
And so when I do something that when I put out the show, or like when it's my topic, or like when I have to write something, or a blog or whatever, I'm always fearful of are they gonna like it? Are they gonna see me as a sinner? Like, are they gonna see me as like somebody who is just a fraud? Like, are they gonna see past like some of the good things that maybe I've been writing because I've basically stole it from St. Thomas, and then they see me that I'm a joke? And I realize that a lot of times when that happens, it's because I'm so worried about what other people think about me, and I'm not focused on, am I doing it for the love of God?
Right. Or
am I doing it because I want people to like me, or I want to be held up to a higher esteem, or I want people to think that I'm smart or funny, or whatever that occasion is? But when I fear, like, fearfulness, like for me, a lot of times is not necessarily I'm scared of something that happens. Typically, my adrenaline kicks in and I react. I'm an aggressor when something like fearful happens physically.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared.
Mm-hmm.
That's just something that's, I don't know, a part of me.
Yeah.
But when I experience fear is when I'm experiencing like
social pressures.
Social pressures.
Yeah.
Of knowing like, I don't think that they're going to like me.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're going to think that I'm dumb or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, I'm a sales guy by trade. So like my whole job is to make people happy, and make, and that's like what I do for a living. And so when that doesn't happen, that's the humbling experience that I experience, that I have with fear. Okay,
so here's one thing he talks about fear being external in many places. Here's one. He says, from this is just following up exactly from what I just had read. From this we gather that whatever is entirely subject to our power and will is not the object of fear, and that nothing gives rise to fear save what is due to an external cause. Now human will is the proper cause of the evil of sin, and consequently the evil of sin. Wait a minute. Now human will is the proper cause of the evil of sin, and consequently evil of sin, properly speaking, is not an object of fear. But since the human will may be inclined to sin by an extrinsic cause, it is this cause that has a strong power of inclination in the respect that man may fear the evil of sin that arises from within, even though it's really from an extrinsic cause.
I have no idea what you were just talking about.
So I'll find it better at the break, where he says more specifically, because he makes his point clear that he uses the example of like Adam and Eve were not afraid of sinning in the moment that they were, because it was coming from within them.
Yeah, that happens all the time, right? It's like whenever I sin, I'm not scared of necessarily sin. Sin is really good at, like, the devil's really good at, like, saying, like, no, this is good, and then you feel remorse afterwards and, like, how terrible you are. You don't think about the remorse and things like that until after it happens.
Right.
But we should be fearful of sin.
Yes. If that is the thing to fear. If there is a reason to fear, it is that.
All right. I'm going to turn the AC on in the break.
Yeah, it is hot.
Yeah, we'll be right back. Okay, so before we get back, like, to the show, I want to ask you, like, and this will be for the Facebook and for YouTube, but like I said, I'm more of a when it's a fight or flight, I'm a fight guy. Like, that's just my instincts. I'm grateful for them. I've had to put them into action before, and it's nice to know that, like, okay, that is my reaction, because you don't really know if you're a fight or flight guy until you're put in those situations.
Right.
Ideally you're thinking like, yeah, I would definitely die for the faith or whatever, and then you get put into a lesser situation, you're like, and you fold up like a lawn chair. But so for me, I'm more fearful of like what people perceive of me, right? And that's a deficiency on my part, because I really should not be focused on that. I should be focused on pleasing the Lord. But so in your aspect, Dave, what are you like? Do you struggle with? What do you fear? Like, what do you struggle with personally? Or do you? You're see, the weird thing about you is like you just like I think everybody cares about like what other people think of them in some capacity. Like that is just a real thing in society.
Right.
But there are different levels.
I mean, I care what other people think about me.
But not to the extent I do.
But I think that I'm just like very often I think I'm just too dumb to like worry about it or something. You know, like I'm just so content most of the time that like I didn't even think about that being an issue. Like maybe if I had more like presence of mind at all in my life, I would have worried.
What do you fear?
I would have worried about that. I mean, I worry about the way I'm perceived, especially, you know, like I think everybody feels this when you're going to confession. It's like if I confess, how am I going to confess this? I want to confess it honestly, but I also
in the best light as possible.
Right. I also want to like. I don't want Father to think the wrong way about me. Right. You know.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Like let me
set this up. Let me set up this in.
Okay.
Here's what happened.
So when I was born.
No, I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, I that happens to me all the time.
And like, I have fear about following God's will sometimes. You know, like where I think, what if God asks me to do this? What if He asks me to do something like I really don't want to do that?
It's very uncomfortable.
Like, yeah, like you know, what if He asked me to quit my job? You know, I would be terrified about that. And so like that, those are the kind of things I talk to Him about in prayer. And I have found when I have those moments which are a grace, and it truly is when you have a moment of clarity where you realize this is something I'm afraid of, that is a grace that you have just received to even be aware of it. And so I have found
knowing yourself.
Yes, I have found so much peace when I just in prayer say, Lord, I am afraid of this. I am afraid that you're going to ask me to do this. I want to do your will, but I am afraid to. And I need you to help me. You know, if this is what you want me to do, you're going to have to make me a stronger man. Because if you ask me to do this right now and it's up to me, I won't. I'm too afraid. And just like this, you know, when I've done that many times, and just that open and honestness, first of all, I think it's a good prayer.
I do too.
I mean, that is like, that is the very foundation and essence of what prayer is, just bringing yourself to the Lord. And every time I've done that, I've had an immediate sense of peace about whatever it was. It was just like, because, you know, it's good psychologically for me to remind myself by doing that kind of prayer that He is going to help me. Yeah. If he asks me to do that, it's going to be okay. Yeah. Everything that He does for me is magnificent. No matter how I may think about it at the time, He has never done anything for me that was not beautifully, you know, just like a blessing.
Yeah. I mean, I you know, the Passion is a prime example, right? You know, even Jesus in His human nature, you know, says like, may this cup pass me, but not your will be done, my will be done. And like, I have prayed in front of the Blessed Sacrament that I yearn for that prayer, because I don't a lot of times. You know, I don't like. No, it's not that like not your will be done, but like, you know, I just don't want that cup. You know, I don't want it.
Yeah. I mean, the truth is, I want a comfortable life. I do. Yeah, I don't want a life of suffering. I don't want a life that's hard. I want an easy, comfortable life where I can have, you know, I want all these loving kids who won't,
or saints,
who are well behaved,
don't do anything stupid.
Right. Yeah. And I just want to come home to a loving household with a wife who, you know, adores me. I mean, and I have many, many of these things.
Basically all of them.
Yeah, I do have all of them so far. But, you know, I don't want challenges. I don't want hard things in my life. But I also want to live the life God asks me to. And
yeah, and I actually do think you do want hard things in
No,
your life.
I think that I do, but not because I want them. I want them because I know that they will be good for me. But
I think men rise to challenge.
yeah, but I'm just telling you, like, my appetites, my own inclinations do not make me desire
Suffering.
Yeah, I don't want to suffer. That's the thing about me, is I don't want to do that.
Right.
Okay? And I think it's important to admit that, because, like, who does really want to suffer?
Saint Teresa of Lisieux.
She wanted her love for God
Mother Angelica.
superseded, and this is the same true with all the saints. Their love for God supersedes their own desires. So if you were to ask them personally, do you want to suffer? I think all of them would say no.
I think they would
But
say yes.
but I want to because God.
No, because I can offer it up.
Because I can offer it up to Him.
Yeah, no,
but
I think
you
there
see,
is a desire of wanting it to offer up.
but
to our Lord.
but it's a supernatural desire, not a natural desire. That's what I'm saying, is that naturally, in their person.
That is a big distinction.
Well, that's why I'm trying to say it's because of their love for God that supersedes their own will.
Mm-hmm.
Their own will, naturally speaking, does not desire to suffer. If you naturally desire to suffer, you're a masochist.
Right. Yeah.
And you need to go to a psychiatrist,
Right.
Or a psychologist. But it's when it's, that thinking of redemptive suffering.
The redemptive suffering.
That, maybe it's like one of the most beautiful teachings in Catholicism. I don't know. You can't say which is the most beautiful. The Eucharist. Don't do that. Jesus, right.
The answer is Jesus.
Always. But so that's a key difference, I think.
Oh, I agree.
And so this is what I was saying. It's important to admit that I don't desire suffering, because that is what makes your suffering all the more efficacious. I don't desire this, but I embrace it anyway.
Right.
That's where the rubber meets the road. In the realm of grace, I believe.
In the economy of grace.
Ooh, I like economies.
Mm-hmm.
Hoping ours gets better.
NASDAQ would hit all-time high.
Yeah, that's not the economy. Apple and Amazon stock do not equal the economy.
There's a
No, they do not.
case to be made that they do a lot of it.
They do not. I mean, they are a part of our economy, but the stock price itself has nothing to do
I
with
agree. I'm not giving
how many employees they're
hit the button.
hiring or something.
All right, one more segment.
Okay.
Wait, let me find this.
Okay, I'll let you find this.
Keep talking about your own personal fears. Spiders?
No, I'm not-
Snakes? You're
no.
a snake guy. You afraid of snakes?
No, I'm not. I'm not afraid of snakes. I am afraid of. I was afraid of when my dog died. Initially, I was afraid of picking up the dog because I wasn't sure. I knew that she was dead, but I just had this fear of I'm gonna pick her up and it was gonna happen. I had this I don't know, this sense of I don't know, but I do think that, like I said, the most of the time the pride sets in of wanting to be loved, and that's where the litany of humility comes into play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what crushes pride when you pray prayers like that. For the desire to not be esteemed, deliver me, O Lord. And those are the type of prayers that are excruciating to pray, because I pray them and in my heart of hearts know you know what, Lord, I really don't desire this. I'm praying it because I want to desire it, and I know if I want, if I can focus on wanting it, then it will become a part of me, and it'll be a habit that I will form, and then I will desire it. That's that's the strategy that I took with sour beers, and it worked. I like sour beers now. If I keep trying them, fake it till you make it, and then all of a sudden,
I mean,
you like them.
But isn't that the way it goes with beer? I mean, in general, for almost everybody. My first beer I thought was gross.
Well,
I think my first 10 beers I thought were gross.
Well, that's because Natty Light is gross.
Yeah. Actually, my first beer was a Pig's Eye. I was 15, and my grandpa gave it to me. We were all sitting around. He's like, "How old are you?" And I said, 15. He goes, "Here." And I remember I was sitting in his recliner on my birthday, my 15th birthday, drinking a beer, and my dad came in the room and said, "What are you doing?" I said, Grandpa gave it to me. And he kind of like looked and was like, okay. And I was
He's like, dang it, Dad.
I remember
We need to talk.
sitting that thing, sipping it like it was Dr. Pepper. You know, like it was. By the end of that can, I realized beer is more of the back of the tongue beverage. It's not a front of the tongue beverage, you know.
Right. But okay, so that's where I wanted to like cap off on what I was saying is that when I desire to be esteemed or when I desire to be loved, it's a sense of pride.
The litany of humility is rough.
It is brutal.
You know, one thing that I don't struggle with at all, that I think is a big struggle for some people, is the desire to be remembered. Some people, I think, are really afraid of being forgotten.
Like have a legacy.
When I die, like nobody's gonna remember me. I don't care about that at all. I actually care about that zero. I know that within like 10 years, no one will even think of me very often.
See, so that's
even my own children, like they'll have their own lives. They'll be
sure
fathering and mothering their own kids.
This is why it's so important to to be buried at a new funeral location, new burial ground. Because if you get buried at a location that is it's almost up, there's only 3 spots left. Do you want it? Okay. No one is going to be going around praying for you because no one's going to be there anymore. There's no new burials.
All the family of the deceased are now deceased themselves.
Right. So eventually, that's why a lot of times I'll go like there's one right by our old boxing gym on Peoria that is like that there's a cemetery there and there's like it's closed up, right? It's like there's no new burials there, and sometimes I'll go over there and pray the rosary for those people because it's like there's a good chance none of those people have been prayed for
in a long time.
In a long time because no one goes to that cemetery.
Yeah.
And
Praying for the souls in purgatory is like this. It's like one of those secret weapons. It's like there might be several souls in that cemetery whose bodies are in the cemetery who are like needing some prayer to get into heaven, and you could be the one that kicks them in. And who do you think they're going to pray for?
Me.
Yeah, I think actually like Thomas says that the souls who get out of purgatory by virtue of another's prayers have like a debt of justice that they will spend eternity praying for, like the rest of your life.
So I have
praying for you.
I have no desire to be remembered in the fact of like being a legend or being like an icon figure or you know anything like that. But I do have a desire to be put in a burial ground of either a new burial ground or a very famous burial ground, only for the aspect of people praying for me.
Yeah. See, well, I'm pretty Pelagian, and I'm just gonna work my way into heaven.
That didn't work out for them.
Yeah.
They got smacked.
They got smashed. That was at the risk of scandalizing anybody. I'm kidding. Pelagianism is a heresy, and as Catholics, we ain't that.
Yeah. Heretic.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Catholic Man Show. I'm David Niles here with Adam Minahan, Juan Posada, and Jim Spencer. Happy birthday to Jim Finster. Made that mistake earlier. So I was looking for where it says, here in the Summa, he talks about, he lays it out about why fear is always extrinsic. I don't think I copied that question. I copied maybe all of them except for that one. But so here...
of course, that's the one we talked about.
Where he says whether fear itself can be feared, the very beginning of his respondio, he says, as stated above, answer number 3, nothing can be the object of fear save what is due to an extrinsic cause, but not which ensues from our own will. So now fear partly arises from an extrinsic cause and is partly the subject of the will. So anyway, then he goes on talking about something else, but that is... Woo!
God bless you.
Thank you.
May he have mercy on your soul.
I hope he does. Anyway, I just wanted to. That's the best I could do. I said I was going to look forward over the break. That's all I have here in my notes. There are some interesting questions that he does go over here that I would like to. Whether fear makes one suitable for counsel.
Okay.
He gives 2 answers.
Yes and no.
whether one is suitable for receiving counsel and whether one is suitable for giving counsel.
Okay.
And so he says,
There are
wherefore
3 things.
men seek counsel especially when they are afraid. He says, yes, if you're afraid, seek counsel. But then he says, conversely, he says, owing to the want of right judgment, every passion considered in itself hinders the faculty of giving good counsel. So if you are afraid, you shouldn't be giving counsel. Okay? That is just good quality practical stuff right there.
Well,
And it's kind of,
I don't know. I don't know about that.
if you
I mean, I don't want to be against St. Thomas Aquinas. That's not the position I'm being in, like that I want to be. But like, if you're the general in a war and you're scared, and it's your duty to give orders, and say this is what
you have
do.
a job to do. You have to do your job. But
Right.
he's talking about like giving good advice. Maybe you should be like, flank the whatever. Oh, and make sure that you're maxing your 401k. Like we're talking about giving advice to people. Not giving for the general. This is not advice. He's giving commands, and I think that he would distinguish.
Advice and commands. Yeah.
Yeah, but you should actually make sure you're
That was a
maxing out
terrible
your
example.
401k.
That is a
No, you
terrible
should really do that.
example.
You're giving away free money if you're not getting the match. Okay, it's free money. Don't be afraid of the free money.
Jim, I want to apologize for that example.
Okay, and so then this is like the money. This is the money question right here. Whether fear is a sin, and I tried not to highlight his entire respondio, but
you did.
it all got highlighted.
Yep.
So let's go through it.
Okay.
A human act is said to be a sin on account of its being inordinate, because the good of a human act consists in order, as stated above, and he gives a bunch of stuff. Now, this due order requires that the appetite be subject to the ruling reason, which is why, if you're afraid, you shouldn't be giving advice because your
appetites are disordered.
now your appetites are ruling your reason instead of your reason.
There's some deficiency there.
Right, it's backwards. And reason dictates that certain things should be shunned and other things sought after. Among things to be shunned, it dictates that some are to be shunned more than others. And among things to be sought after, that some should be sought after more than others. Moreover, the more a good is to be sought after, the more the opposite evil is to be shunned. The result is that reason dictates that certain goods are to be sought after more than certain evils are to be avoided.
That makes sense. I mean, there's levels of goods and there's levels of
Right,
evils.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Not all sin is the same. Not all sin is mortal.
Right.
Accordingly, when the appetite shuns what the reason dictates that we should endure, rather than forfeit others that we should rather seek for, fear is inordinate and sinful. So if your fear is causing you to shun things that shouldn't be shunned that much, so if you're over-shunning or under-shunning, or if you're over-pursuing a good,
Shun, reshun.
it's like there are some things that are good, like chocolate. Is good, but if your appetites are causing you to pursue that good more than is consistent, more than it should be, then now,
There's a deficiency.
I don't know how anybody's like, how fear is going to come into you eating more chocolate, but I think if you're afraid, you might actually eat more. Actually, I think maybe you would eat more chocolate. Like,
There is stress eating.
yeah, exactly. So anyway, that's when he says that it's a
I
sin.
know nothing about that. I don't eat when I'm stressed. Anyway.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Weird.
yeah.
I know.
On the other hand, when the appetite fears so as to shun what reason requires to be shunned, the appetite is neither inordinate nor sinful. So when you do shun that which should be shunned, unshun. Okay, so then he says whether fear is a mortal sin.
Okay.
So now we're like,
What does he just can you just tell me what he said? You don't have to read it.
no,
just tell me.
I need to read it because it's specific.
Okay.
It's yes and no.
Right.
Okay.
There's 3 reasons why it's yes.
Right.
There's 2 reasons why
It's not
no.
that long. It's not that long.
Okay.
Fear is a sin through being inordinate. That is to say, through shunning what ought not be shunned according to reason. Now, sometimes this inordinateness of fear is confined to the sensitive appetites, without the accession of the rational appetite's consent. And then it cannot be mortal, but only a venial sin. But then sometimes this inordinateness of fear reaches to the rational appetite, which is called the will, which deliberately shuns something against the dictate of reason, and this inordinateness of fear is sometimes a mortal sin, sometimes a venial sin. For if man through fear of the danger of death or any other temporal evil is so disposed as to do what is forbidden, or to omit what is commanded by the divine law, such fear is a mortal sin. Otherwise, it is a venial sin. So,
Okay, so tell me what he just said.
if man is to fear the danger of death or any other temporal evil, if a man through fear of the danger of death or any other temporal evil is so disposed as to do what is forbidden, or omit what is commanded by the divine law, such fear is a mortal sin. So it has to reach the level of your intellect. You have to know that what you're, I mean, it's like kind of the same thing. It seems to me, what he's saying is that the same rules for mortal sin apply. You have to know what you're doing is wrong.
And grave.
It has to be grave.
Mm-hmm. And you have
So
to do it anyway.
If it's just in the sensitive appetites, it's probably just venial.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know, because sometimes fear can cloud your judgment so much that you don't know. You know, like you just aren't thinking anymore. You know,
You're not thinking rationally.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're not thinking correctly.
Right.
And so you just make bad decisions. And that's why, if you're afraid, you shouldn't be giving counsel.
Right.
But it seems to me like kind of the same rules for mortal sin. If you know, if you could say, yes, I know this is wrong, I know it's bad, and I'm freely choosing to do it anyway because I'm afraid not to, that's still a mortal sin.
Okay.
How does that square with you?
Yeah. Well, I'm never there's very few things that I'm gonna disagree with with St. Thomas Aquinas.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to be on that side.
Mm-hmm.
No, I do, but I think that's the importance of the little way, right? That's the importance of doing the small things. That's the importance of making sure that you're taking care of the domestic church, doing the things that God has given you to do, right? And not worry about these big things. Maybe you can't do big things, but you can do little things with great love.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why, in order to build up to these moments of, maybe I am a little worried that if I get put in this situation, I will be fearful and I won't make the right decision. But the habit of doing the good, being a virtuous person is like a muscle memory. So that's the importance of making sure that you're exercising these muscles, if you will, to where when you get put in that situation, it becomes almost a reflex, an instinct that happens. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you do the little mundane things the right way. And that's the hardest thing. That's what I hate doing, right? It's like making that cold call when you don't really have to.
Right.
It's the making sure you pay a little extra attention to your son.
Right.
When
training your will.
It's okay that if you would, it's not like you're a bad dad if you don't do that. Or making sure you go out of your way to tell your wife that you love her the 5th time for the day, or whatever the example is. You have to make sure that you're doing it over and over and over again, because if you can't do the big thing, or you can't do the little things, you're not going to be able to do the big things.
I also think that we have to learn to detach ourselves from the things of this world. It seems like,
no doubt,
in my own life anyway, if I have fear, it's because I'm afraid to lose something, whether it's a reputation, whether it's a child,
a material good,
whether it's a house. I mean, whatever it is.
Sure.
Training ourselves to let go. I mean, just sit there and ask yourself, what are you most afraid to lose? And then in prayer, give that to God. Just surrender it to Him. Say, God, I'm afraid of losing this. You take it. And it's not like you can just pray that prayer one time and it's like, there, I'm not afraid of that anymore. That's not the way it works.
That may be a thorn in your side that God wants you to take.
But what now? If you know what are you afraid of? What a gift to be able to make now a beautiful prayer every time you pray. Now
and
it's
a beautiful offering.
Train yourself just to give it to Him. Imagine,
give it away.
Exactly.
Give it away
Say,
now.
just picture yourself. Yes, Lord. If that's what you ask, I say yes. If you ask me to, the Martin family, they had all these children die. Terrible, tragic. If God, if you ask that of me, you may have my children right now. That is like a terrifying thing for me to pray.
Yeah.
Because I'm not asking for that to happen.
I don't want that.
I don't want it to happen. But if you want it, Lord.
I just want to conform to your will.
Exactly. Make me in your image, not my own.
Yeah.
And if you do that, if you give away all that you fear to lose, you have nothing left to fear.
Basil Hayden was good.
Yes.
Basil Hayden was good.
$43.
Not bad.
Good.
I would buy it again.
A good buy, right.
We're on the Lord's team.
The winning side.
So raise your glass.
And cheers to Jesus.
Anything? Hold on. You're jumping the gun?
Whoa, Juan.
Juan is like
Broski?
jumping the gun. It's because he's tired. He's ready to be done.
Yeah,
He doesn't want
he had to
deal with
box.
us
He had to
anymore.
box his son today.
Yeah, he had to box his son, which is like really difficult. He was like, I won in boxing today. It's like, yeah, because you boxed your 5-year-old. How old is Santi? 4. Yeah, 4-year-old. Cool, Juan.
Yeah, we're all real proud of you.
Oh, real happy for you.
VHS will be calling later.
I don't think, was there any questions or probably not. There's probably no questions because
They enjoyed the extra content between the segments.
maybe I'll put the in between the third and fourth break, the extra content that we did. Maybe I'll put that on the podcast.
It doesn't automatically go?
No, in between breaks, do not go on the podcast.
Oh, it doesn't.
No.
Does it stay on YouTube?
It stays on YouTube. It stays on Facebook Live.
Because it doesn't make it on Cubase.
Yeah. So, but maybe I'll do that for this because I think actually the in between the third and fourth segment was actually good content.
Mucho bueno.
For a change.
For a change. Juan, I can't wait to get in the ring with you.
You were giving David all this crap about bad metaphors, and you give the worst metaphors. Remember the ones we were talking about the suffering of the cross with candy?
Candy?
Taken away.
Yes, you're right. I give bad metaphors like.
What did
and
you say about
analogies.
candy?
I don't know. Back whenever we had Tim Staples on, we were talking about
The sufferings of
the
Mary.
sufferings of Mary, and I related it to. I gave an analogy of like, yeah, whenever you want candy and you end up not taking it or something like that. Something
You know
really
what?
dumb.
You know what? I get it.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I agree.
That is actually hard for me. I like candy.
The thing about me,
I'm a big candy guy.
Yeah.
I like chocolate. I like brownies. And it's heyday at my house right now because everybody's bringing us food.
Yeah.
And everybody brings brownies or
Everybody-
dessert
yeah,
of some kind.
The beautiful thing about having one of the beautiful things about having a kid, not
Yeah.
the beautiful thing,
But it is a motivating factor for fathers, I think. It's like,
is that
month of dessert. It's a
Yes.
month of dessert.
everybody brings you food, and they always include a dessert.
Yeah. David Jr. is 4 weeks old now, so it's like we've just got maybe a week and a half left, of this beautiful, beautiful season of life.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to have another kid
I'm not against it.
for more pudding. The McCulloughs brought over this banana pudding. It's like, have I ever had pudding before? This is incredible.
Whole life has been a lie.
Right? It's like I thought pudding was for kids. Pudding is for me.
All right.
Patreon demands a live stream of Adam versus Juan.
Well, we have talked about that because Juan has challenged Adam to a wrestling match 5 or 6 times. And Adam is he's too scared to do it or something. I don't know what it is.
He's afraid.
He is afraid. He has fear. Adam, you're afraid of something. Whether you're honest about what the object of your fear really is, but there is a fear because you have been slowed to action. In fact, that's in here. I didn't read. Oh, I closed that already. That is one of the questions, whether fear hinders action. He says, on the part of the bodily instrument, fear, considered in itself, is always apt to hinder exterior action on account of the outward members being deprived through fear of their heat. I don't get where the heat comes in, but he does say the answer is yes, whether fear can can hinder exterior action. It's because the things are too hot. That's what he says. He literally says that.
It comes back to full circle with the bees.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Apt to hinder exterior action on account of the outward members being deprived through fear of their heat. That's what it says in the Summa. Like, your arms are deprived of their heat, and that's why they can't do it. I wonder if this is like a science thing that like the science of the time said like, oh yeah, you got to have heat. Without the heat, your stuff won't work.
Well, sometimes when
Your body works on heat.
One really isn't like the thing is, one really doesn't want that.
But I have challenged.
What I think that you're saying is that after it's done, he will have regretted it. But that is not, in fact, what you said. You said he doesn't want it, and I'm telling you, I think he is ready to wrestle you.
All right.
He's got the weight advantage. I understand why you're afraid.
All right.
Now they're thinking a 3-part series: boxing, wrestling, and fishing.
Gosh, I would dominate in all 3 of those. Like, it wouldn't even be even remotely close. It would be just a complete, it would be ugly. It would get ugly.
Well, we'll see.
Wait a minute. Hold on.
Okay, all 3 accepted.
It's a triathlon. Catholic means a triathlon.
Let's get off before Juan gets hurt.